All right. Let me know if you can hear me. My headphones weren't connecting for a second. Oh, I see nods. Okay. Wonderful. All right. Okay. Awesome. Thanks, Synth. All right. Very cool. All right. Let me pull up. Okay. Share screen. Haha. There we go. Oh. Okay. All right, let's get this started. 1 second, let me move my, there we go. Much better. Haha, okay. Welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're tuning in from. Welcome to another Houseplant Q&A. Today we'll be doing a Q&A as part of the Urban Garden Learning Series. And I actually have some plants I actually want to show you that I picked up over the weekend too. And it's an open Q&A. So definitely any questions you would like to post in the chat. We also have the capability to have you on video as well. So I hope, yeah, if you have any questions. So oh, hold on 1 second. I have to mute all. One moment. Here we go. Just for a second, just so I can get through this real quick. So as part of the Urban Garden Learning Series, there are various types of offerings. So between classes to Q&As, plant clinics, and to just open forums. So it's kind of like a meetup. Come answer questions or just talk about plants. It's also a chance for folks to be get their collections highlighted, or maybe they want to share a class. Maybe you want to just share a little snippet about your collection. Please reach out, let me know. We can definitely do that. So you are more than welcome to. And welcome to today's class. And if you are popping in for the first time and you hear any background singing, so any cooing or opera singing, that is well, we have Indigo, who definitely likes to serenade us in the mornings, and then Julia, who is our little opera singer. And so she has actually been actively singing all day so far, both this whole morning. So if you do hear that in the background, that's what's happening. So today we're going to be doing a Q&A, and just to get this out of the way, next week we will be doing a plant clinic. And so this is where you would be able to bring your plant up on the screen, show it on the screen, and we can discuss what might be the potential issues, ways to remedy it. Folks, can also feel free to share their own experiences as well. And maybe you have that exact same plant, you had the exact same problem, and you were able to figure it out. So it's kind of like, let's get our brains together and figure that one out. And then again, this is a free class, absolutely free. I am not going to charge anyone for this series here. So if you would ever like to share a tip, of course, they're more than welcome, but not necessary. Just putting that out there. I have to finish setting up the Patreon, so that will be an option, because some folks showed some interest in me having that Patreon going. So more about that soon. And lastly, if you would like to connect, if you have to hop off, you can reach me at info@urbangarden.eco. I do have a personal inbox, but that just became really flooded. So I'm just diverting everyone to the contact email for Urban Garden, just to kind of better filter those questions so I don't miss anything. Because yeah, I've been getting quite a few a few emails on my regular inbox. Um, and if you want to follow along on Instagram, or if you're just interested in other events as well, or other classes, you can check out urbangarden.eco. If you are in New York City, I'm actually leading a walk this Saturday in Central Park. So, and it's pay what you can. So even if you can't pay a cent, that you will not be turned away. So you just, come if you're in the area, let me know. I can send you the details for you to register. I'm just asking for everyone to register so that I can send you the location details, and it's just easier for me to track folks to know who is indeed coming. So I do ask for registration beforehand. Um, and last thing I actually wanted to show you guys is, so previously when I would do my classes, I would just send a replay, but I've been playing with this really amazing program called Descript, and it lets me do quite a few things with the video. So I have to finish editing like last week's video, for instance, but I did, just in case you hadn't checked it out, I just wanted to show you what I've been doing because I just think it might be helpful to folks. So for instance, this was last week's class. So I have it written raw replay, which is basically just saying, this is hasn't been edited yet. But if you go back to here, so I have this link shared on the Facebook group, but I can happily share this here in the chat as well. But just for you to see, I have basically the options where you can watch the class. Here's the video. Then there is an audio. So I've extracted the audio. So if folks just want to hear the class, if you miss it, you would prefer just to listen to it. And then there's the option where I have the actual transcript as well. So if folks would just prefer to read it, that's fine too. So it's something that's searchable as well. So trying to just make it as accessible as I possibly can. And I actually over the weekend just learned how I can add really nice subtitles. So I'll probably be going back and re-editing the old ones to add those subtitles kind of because now I kind of want everything to be uniform. But I just wanted to let you know that this was available in case you did miss one and you're like, hey, I actually wanted to check that out. You're definitely welcome to. So I'm going to just put here, I'm going to drop this in the chat and then I'll stop the share. We can get started. I hope that's helpful. I always try to think, okay, well, how, because I know there are folks that tune in, for instance, that are hearing impaired, and I just would rather, hard of hearing, and I would definitely want to make sure it's accessible to everyone. I know Zoom is thankfully does now offer transcription in the background, which of course is very helpful. But if I can do anything to help as well, I am happy to. All right. So thanks, Rocio. Thank you. And we have Florida in the house. Let's see here. Okay. Oh, real quick, I actually wanted to show you. It's so dark. There's I guess there's a thunderstorm coming, and so it's so dark outside. It's like nighttime right now. I'm so used to the sunlight hitting me from this direction. Over the weekend, I found this really neat aeonium, and so it looks like it's an aeonium kiwi. It was with a bunch of other kiwis, but it's so white, and I was like, I have to bring it home. Absolutely beautiful. I have quite a few aeoniums. I really like them a lot. The only thing is for you to know, if you are going to get an aeonium, I would definitely recommend. There's indigo right on cue. So if you are going to get an aeonium, I would honestly recommend you go to a store or just go where you can physically pick it up, because these don't ship very well. Now you might receive it, and you know it maybe if it was really well packaged, but these are very prone to bruising. And I've gotten succulents. My most of my collection is yeah, succulents are the most prevalent in my collection. So I've got quite a few of them shipped to me, but I've found that out of all of them, these actually get so much more damaged during the shipping process. And just for you to even see, and so see those black marks? So that's just because of friction. I've seen this happen, even folks I've tried to share aeonium cuttings. They're just very, very prone to bruising. So if you know, it's more of aesthetic, you know, it doesn't really harm too much of the little leaves here, but just so that you're aware of that. And I mean, I love it. I'm going to put it, I'm thinking on this side so I don't have it directly under the grow light, and kind of see how it does, because it has a really beautiful pink on the outer edge. Really, really beautiful. I've never seen one this white. And another cool find, and it was just being sold as a miscellaneous cactus. But it is a crested cactus. So it's a species of crest. Okay, so it's a species of cactus. It looks like it might be Eve's needles or something like that. But it has a cristate mutation. So you could see it's flat essentially. So they grow in a very irregular way, where instead of growing in this columnar kind of growth, they basically, let's see how they kind of grow and then they envelop themselves. So they kind of create a seam. So if you see things that they call mermaid tail cacti and things like that, so that's the mutation. So, and any species can do this, and sometimes it'll happen from when it germinates. It's just it has that mutation. Sometimes it's actually a result of injury. So you might have a regular looking like Peruvian cactus, and then what ends up happening is you chop it, or it fell, it cracked, you know, you ran over it with your car, something happened with it, you cause damage. And when that new growth grows, sometimes those cells actually express this mutation. And so sometimes it's cristate, sometimes it's what is called monstrose. So for instance, I have a little, here we go. This is a little Peruvian cactus that has a Peruvian apple cactus with monstrose mutation. So you can get really weird where it kind of looks like it has a bunch of clubs and just looks odd. Mingtings are another example of monstrose growth. So super, super cool. I always have to grab these when I see something really weird. That's what I gravitate towards. So my husband was like, these are great specimens. I was like, yes. I was having way too much fun this weekend with that. And then I wanted to show you these last two plants here. Oh gosh, here you go. And I was able to get my hands on, it's been on my wish list for a while. This is a Scindapsus officinalis. And what's really neat is when I first saw these, they were about $35, $40, and I regretted not grabbing it. And then the price shot up to $100. And at the store that I went to, and I went, holy moly, okay, it's like 3 weeks ago. This was a fraction of the price. So I was like, all right, well, let me keep an eye out. And now they were doing a big mega sale and they brought it down to $15. So this is a Scindapsus, if you can believe it. So this is Scindapsus. It grows it has really large internodal spaces. it kind of gives me more of like a syngonium kind of feel. It's already cascading. They had different ones, but I personally like when things start to hang off the side. My husband's the opposite. He wants everything to be nice and uniform. And I was like, I love it. But look at the leaves are absolutely beautiful. And in comparison to other Scindapsus, so to the types that we're used to, right? Like they call them satin pothos, or we have like the silver splash and the exotica. They have very thick leaves. These do not. This is a very, very thin leaf. Very much, it gives me kind of like a peace lily kind of vibe here. It's absolutely beautiful and different. So I was very happy I was able to add one of these to my collection. And then the last one I added is this one, which is, oh, and the Scindapsus is from Asia. I think it was Burma. And this one is a piper. So it's not looking too hot right now, but it's putting out new growth, and it's hard to see in the video. Oh, here we go. It's picking up. You can kind of see crystals, if you can see those you can see these kind of like salt crystals all along the stems here. And so those are exudates. And so pipers do this. They're also under the leaf. Maybe you could see, nah, doesn't really pick it up, but it looks like there's salt all over the plant. And this is actually very common in piper plants. So families of we're talking like pepper, like black pepper, not chili peppers. And these guys, along with other plants like in the grape family, like cissus, they actually, what's really interesting is they actually have a relationship with ants. So they exude these like sugars and these crystals, and then the ants will come and take them. But in essence, they'll then protect the plant. So it's like, oh, you're feeding me? Okay, cool. I'll patrol. I'll make sure that you're not getting chewed up. So it's just a super cool specimen. And these are actually from South America. And this has also been on my wish list for a while. And this was just jammed into the shelf at the store. And I saw the leaf and I was like, oh my gosh, is that a piper? And yes, I had to end up grabbing that. So it's a piper crocatum, it is called. And this is the new growth. It comes in this like kind of yellow burgundy kind of color. And then when it hardens off, it becomes this really deep, dark green color, forest green color with some silver on there. So super, super cool. Oh, Brenda. Oh, awesome. Thank you. I'm trying to remember where I picked up this shirt. It's all succulents. It's like succulents and cacti. And I think it was at maybe like J.C. Penney or Macy's or something. I saw it on hanging and I said, I need to have this shirt, and I got it. And I've seen so many people wearing it. So it's definitely not hard to find. So once I bought it, it's like once you buy it, you start seeing it everywhere. So once I bought it, I see so many people wearing it. I see people. I'll try to find a link, and I'll send it your way in case if you're a fan. Oh, so maybe it was Target. Valerie just said that it was at they saw the shirt at Target. So maybe it was Target, but it's not hard to find. I love it. Highly recommend. All right. And oh yeah, and crafts are awesome. I was actually considering maybe during one of like the open forum days or something like that, doing some like plant crafts. I'm not sure if anybody would be interested. I just kind of, there's so many crafts that I do personally with leaves and plants, and I thought that might be a fun subject to kind of show you guys just a couple things you can do if that's of interest. So yeah. But yeah, please, if you have any questions, throw them on in the chat. You could definitely unmute yourself. You can show your plant if you want to, however you prefer. If you'd prefer to just drop it in the chat, that's totally fine. Yeah, if I could keep going about plants, so I'll refrain if in case there's questions. Oh, awesome. Love doing plant crafts or any crafts. Great. Yeah, there's some really fun things you can do with plants, with the leaves especially. I'm actually working on I had smaller classes where I was showing how to preserve leaves, but I think I'm actually, it's kind of been like a side project, but I'm working on like an intensive on leaf preservation and things like that. So for folks that are trying to do it for craft reasons and you don't want to end up with a moldy leaf in a couple months, and also for folks that are trying to actually make materia medicas. So for herbalists or for folks that are pursuing careers in botany, you do actually have to have samples that you collect, and you want to make sure you're doing it correctly so that again, your samples don't degrade. They're also safe from pests. That's a whole thing. There are like dermestid beetles and so many types of insects, especially mites, things like that, that are in love with dried leaves and even dried mushrooms. And so I was doing some work for the botanical garden, the New York Botanical Garden, in their cryptid department. So it was all like mushrooms and lichen and moss, and it was such it was like such a heartbreaking experience when you would pull out samples that were like over 200 years old and they were dust. Because there somehow, you know, an insect had gotten in there, and they're just doing their job, right? It's to break down dead plant matter and you know, help with decomposition. They're just doing their job. But it's like, oh man, you know, these samples that had been collected are then gone, unfortunately. Yes, leaf pottery bowls. Oh yeah, absolutely. Those are those are great. I've actually been trying to see if I can get my hands on like rhubarb, rhubarb leaves. I'd love to make a huge bowl. Uh, and I've seen so many really great tutorials on that. And yeah, that's on my that's definitely on my list. Elephant leaves, yeah. Oh my gosh. There was this in Costa Rica. There was this giant plant, and it's in the rhubarb family. And those leaves, oh my gosh, were huge. Um, Absolutely ginormous. And yeah, I'm not sure if I have the. Let me see here. Yeah, I don't think I have. Forgetting the name of the, but it was in the rhubarb family, but huge plants. All right, so okay, we got our first question here. Can you mention geranium care? Yes, of course. Geraniums, oh, I love geraniums. They're definitely a tried and true house plant. And yeah, personally, I had them more so when I was growing up. I don't have any currently. They were definitely a favorite of my mom. She still has tons of geraniums. She's now in Costa Rica, and where she's originally from, and her garden is ridiculous. I ask her to send me videos all the time. I have to share those with you guys so that you see. It's you think I have a lot of plants. Yeah. You see where I get it from my mom. But yeah, they, you know, they prefer a lot of the geraniums from what I recall, they were all in our sunnier windows. So we had them in our southeast exposure, for instance. I've seen folks, my neighbor who lives across the way, he has a western exposure. He has his geraniums right up against the window, but the leaves are getting they blush, so the leaves are getting kind of sun bleached. So I don't think the western exposure is the best option for them. But I do find that they do like a nice sunny spot, and gosh, they can flower for a pretty long time. They really like a well draining soil. On average, I think my mother was probably watering hers, on a weekly, if not like a maybe 7 to 10 day basis. It was definitely a very airy mix. And yeah, they kept putting out flowers, and I didn't find that they got very leggy. So I just think if they're getting that adequate light, they're fine. Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was something that was eating her geraniums, and I'm trying to think what was eating her geraniums. I don't remember if it was a caterpillar. It was one summer. It was something was eating her geraniums, and I can't recall what it was. And maybe it was a beetle. But other than that, I haven't seen that, at least again from personal experience, that they really had a lot of pests, that they were like prone to anything. I don't remember them ever having things like spider mites or thrips, or mealies. But yeah, they're really easygoing. They're very forgiving too, and they'll die back and keep coming back. So I know it's just they can get burned if they're in a really, really strong sunlight. Yeah, so I unfortunately I haven't really had much experience with them in recent years. But that's what I can recall. Sandra, when should I plate the stems on my Pachira aquatica? Lower part is plated, but the new growth isn't. Are they fairly robust? Plated. Should I plate? Oh my gosh. I'm not sure what that is in reference to. Lower part, but the new growth isn't. Do you mean like, is it being? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was like, I am not. No, I don't. I'm not familiar with that. Okay, cool. Yes, braided. Okay, awesome. Learn something new. So okay. I personally, I know folks braid them all the time. They do that. They do the same with other plants as well. Oh, plaited, pronounced plaited. Okay, awesome. And so I know that this is a common occurrence, and I mean they're sold that way. I would recommend against it. I've just seen that when you actually start to braid them, what ends up happening is that usually there is going to be a disparity of the robustness in regards to certain stems versus others. The smallest stem is going to end up getting choked out. So they basically start to girdle one another. So there are cases where the stems will actually fuse together. And this can actually happen because they are consistently injuring one another. So basically they're being braided. And so that constant rubbing, right? Because they're growing. So as they're growing, they are causing that friction. So what ends up happening is that those cells sometimes will actually merge with the other cells, and the braid actually becomes one. But you can't necessarily always guarantee that's going to happen. So sometimes what happens is that, let's say out of 3, you have the braid going, right? And one is the tiniest, and the other two kind of are the ones that are growing at a faster rate. And so that little one ends up getting stuck and choked out. And so what happens is that it's called girdling. So they strangle the smaller of the stems, the smallest stem. And so as they wrap around, it cuts off the flow of the little vessels of the xylem and the phloem, so the food and water. And so it cuts them off, and then that stem starts to die off. All of the leaves that were growing on that stem are lost. So personally, I don't recommend them breeding them, just because you don't know kind of who are you losing. So what if that tiny stem was the one that was putting out the biggest leaves, or and then you end up kind of, losing a big section of the plant. So I personally would advocate against breeding them, but that's not but that's perfectly, if that's what you want to do, you can do it. You can definitely do it. And if you wanted to do it though, yes, the growth has to still be green. And then you can start to, and you can start as soon as the growth is long enough, essentially. I would recommend, instead of using twisty ties, because some folks will use twisty ties to hold them in place while they start to become woody. If you are going to be braiding them, then I would recommend using something that's much just less abrasive. Like the twisty tie can very quickly get really thick to the point where the twisty tie starts to choke it. So you can use something like plant tape. I've seen folks use pantyhose as well, just kind of repurpose pantyhose because it's stretchy. You can do that as well, but I just don't use the twisty ties. That's gonna really it kind of will cut into the tissue of the plant. Oh, Adeline, thank you so much. Here we go. So Adeline says, I have had geraniums most of my adult life. I had them in my south window of my study with some greenery from my neighbor. Also, they love an east-facing window. They do well outside, on my deck, and along my perennial border in containers. They are super easy to propagate just by cutting off a healthy branch and replant it in another fertile soil container. I especially love the salmon geraniums. What a gorgeous color, and such large flowers that last a long time. Thank you. For those of you maybe who might be unfamiliar with geraniums, I'm actually going to pull up a picture here. Geraniums, and you know what? Let's look up salmon geraniums. Here we go. Just for folks to see. Here we go. Oh, these are really pretty. Yeah, I love the shape of the leaves of geraniums. I love wild geraniums. If anybody's ever seen wild geranium, really, really beautiful. The cultivated varieties have these really scalloped leaves, absolutely beautiful. Kind of give it like that begonia kind of shape to it. But let me see the wild geraniums. Yes. So their leaf shape is totally different. Really beautiful leaf shape. These are absolutely gorgeous. So this is neat too. So you see geranium maculatum. So maculatum actually means spotted. So sometimes it might not, you might go, well, where are the spots? So sometimes it's in reference to spots that might be found on the stem, on petals, on leaves. There's something in there that has some spots, some white spots usually. These are absolutely beautiful. There is a place here called Little Island, and it's a man-made floating park right off of Manhattan. Super cool, and they have a huge border of wild geraniums, and absolutely beautiful. I was just there about 4 weeks ago, since 4 weeks ago, and they were all in full bloom, absolutely beautiful. So it's so interesting when you look at the wild versions and then the cultivated versions, right? And you can see what, you know, the cultivated varieties were definitely, you know, they look much more like robust, while the wild geraniums look very kind of delicate. And these, it's like these are meant to be showy, and yeah, it's super cool to look at those. Oh yes, definitely. You should totally visit it. It's absolutely amazing. Um, they it took, I think, 3 or 4 years to build. For those of you that maybe have never even heard about it, it looks very futuristic. Whoops. So check this out. Isn't this crazy? It's like a theme park. And while there are some native species, there are a lot of introduced species, but not invasive varieties. So they wanted to really give it like a forest feel. And when you go in there, they're supported by these, they call them like tulips. And so they're these huge, they're actually filled with foam, which is really interesting. So they're filled with foam, and then the soil is put on top, and so it's just literally an island, and it's holding up, all of these plants. It's really beautiful. If you are coming to visit New York, there's no admission to enter. You just enter. uh it's weird. It's very weird, but it's beautiful, and so it's definitely worth checking out. Um, and they do like concerts and things like that during the summer. So if you haven't heard of it yet, it's a really interesting project. As you can see, just it's definitely different. It doesn't even look real when I'm looking at these. Yeah, it's beautiful. So highly recommend. Here we go. Judy, my Dieffenbachia isn't doing well. I have leaves that are turning yellow. I'm not sure why. Also, it's top heavy. I'm not sure why it's top heavy. It's about 5 feet tall. Whoa, I'm 5'1". So this is a very big plant in comparison to me. I'm thinking, holy moly, that's a big plant. And it put out 3 new plants. I was like, okay, so it's propagating itself. That could sometimes be a sign of stress. So if a plant is, of course, if a plant is very happy, it can start putting out pops, right? If the plant is capable of doing so. But if the plant is looking poorly, if a plant looks really stressed out, it's starting to look yellow, and then it has pups, right? Sometimes that's actually, and it seems to be pushing out the growth. It can sometimes be that it's trying to propagate itself, because the mother plant, might not be doing that well. So it's trying to continue its life that way. We tried to stake it. It's not working. Okay. Any suggestions? So first thing I would advise is take a look at those. Well, first is take a quick look really close with a flashlight. Check to see if you have any pests. So try to see if you have something like spider mites or thrips. Sometimes with those, you don't know you have them until it's it's too late. So I would definitely, you can do what is called like a white paper towel test. So you can dampen a white paper towel and put it under the leaves, as well as clean the top of the leaf. Sometimes you can actually pick up what might be on the leaf, if there's some type of pest on there. Another option would be to use a flashlight and like a hand lens, like a magnifying lens, to really try to see if there's something that might be crawling and hurting your plant. So first is just rule out pests. Second is take a look at those roots. So especially if it's really it's top heavy, it's starting to turn yellow, it's putting out pups. It does sound like it could be close to being root bound, if not root bound already. So I would definitely take a look at those roots just to see what might be going on. Maybe there's an issue with the substrate. Maybe it needs, now that it has the pups, it might need a little bit more nutrition. That could be one thing. Could be low in something like magnesium. You can actually get that tested, get that soil tested. That's an option. But first, I would say just, first check for pests, and second, check out those roots. You want to make sure there's no root rot going on. If you do pull it out and it's all roots, then you know that it might be severely root bound. They like to be a little root bound, but if it's kind of a mass of roots and you can't even see the soil, right? It's kind of like literally a wall of roots, then you might need to up the pot size. And staking isn't helping. So if you're staking it, do you mean that so even though you're staking it, it's still tipping over, or do you mean you're staking it and it's still putting out yellow leaves, like the leaves are still turning yellow? Because that's usually, with the leaves turning yellows, it's staking and it's still tipping over. Okay. Are you using something like just like bamboo or something? Because you might have to get a thicker stake. There are the stakes that they're super, let me see, do I have one accessible? I do not. No. There are some, they're super, it's a moss pole. And it's still tipping over. You might have to reinforce it with 2 on each side, or sometimes 3, to form kind of a cage where you have 1 here, 2 here, and then that will support the plant. It's not that aesthetically pleasing, but sometimes that ends up having to be done. But it's a moss pole. Okay. One option too is to anchor it to the wall. And so what you can do is put something like a command strip. It doesn't have to be something permanent that you screw into your wall or anything like that. But you can put something like a command strip that's removable, that the highest you can find in terms of the weight capacity. So like 16, 20 pounds, something like that. And you can actually have that on the wall. And then you can use a piece of plant tape that you put around the moss pole and then kind of hook on the hook that's on the wall. That's really helpful. I have done that for my carry up here, because I have it on a macrame, but it's on a really tall bamboo stake, and so it kept falling forward. So I actually have that one anchored. Which other one do I have anchored? And our bamboo palm was anchored. Now I have it on a better stake, but that one was actually anchored to the wall as well. So that could potentially help too, if you're not trying to add even more moss poles to the situation. But yeah, definitely check out those leaves to see if you have any pests, and check out those roots. If you see brown roots, anything that kind of looks, Maple just hopped up here. anything that might look kind of, damaged or like distressed and like gelatinous, that could mean that you might have root rot. Are you good? Are you gonna hang out here? Just don't tip any more plants over. He keeps doing that. He'll hop up while I'm teaching, and then he'll turn around and start knocking plants down. So I'm trying to keep one hand on him. Yes, hello. Hello. Oh, here we go. He's like, you gotta pet me. You gotta pet me. He's a very needy cat. You good? Okay. His little paw just like reaching out. That was great. I'm glad I got that on video. All right. Beverly, Little Island is a special place. We saw some live entertainment. Oh, that's great. Yes. I haven't been to any of their live like shows yet. I was there like early afternoon. And I know the lead horticulturalist, and so that was a super cool chance to have like a private, get a private tour with some colleagues, and it's beautiful. Highly recommend. Oh yes. Oh, Maple is very much a sweetie. He is just when he decides that he wants the attention, uh that's it's an issue. Because he will take down anything in his path. So if I'm like cleaning the plants up, if I'm watering plants, he'll literally go and push the plants off of the table. If I'm teaching, he tries like this to get my attention, and he'll go behind me and start knocking plants down. So he's he just turned 11, or yeah, he's about to turn 11 actually at the end of the month. So he's been here a while. Let's see here. All right. And Adeline, I also love the aroma, although not everyone with an allergy may find it, they might find it rather strong. Yes, with geraniums. Yes, they do have a really lovely aroma. I believe there are some even like perfumes and things that are made with like geranium notes. I'm trying to remember something recently that I saw that had geranium in it. Are you good? Can I put you down? Hello. All right, buddy. I can't do this the whole time. He has no intention of moving. He's just looking at me. Hello, buddy. Yeah, so please feel free to, if anybody else has any more questions, feel free to drop those. Buddy, can I put you down? You're really heavy. Yeah, he's a hefty boy. He's like about 16 pounds. So this is a workout. I'm gonna put you down. This is too much. Ooh. My panda plant is putting out new growth like crazy, but no new growth has the little brown spot on the edges of the leaves. It's at an east window, so perhaps it needs more light. We have only a couple very little west-facing windows. Our bigger south-facing windows are shaded, and our north-facing window is under a deck roof. Okay, yes. The same thing happened with my panda plant. When I purchased it, of course, it had the signature little like dark brown kind of almost like chocolate edges. And when and it's in my southeast window, but all the new growth, it was putting out green growth. And so I think it's definitely the type of light. Like I have it, I have like a little shelf up against the window, and it's under, so it is protected slightly from the strong light. It does lean towards the window, of course, but it's definitely protected from the full amount of light. So it is just keeping that kind of green growth. So yes, a lot of plants, especially like some succulents, those edges will turn kind of like the red or really darken up with the increase of light. So I mean, you could, sometimes this is actually done with like grow lights that are kept right above the plant that can cause them to get that edging again. So I mean, you could try to move it under a actual grow light. If you keep it in the east window, it's probably not going to get those edges again. West, I'm just worried it might get potentially burned. And I wouldn't recommend a south facing window for it. So you could try a west and maybe acclimate it. So put it by your western window for like an hour, 2 hours at a time, and then slowly, and then the next day, 3 to 4 hours, and so on, just to kind of get it used to the light and see. You don't want it to all of a sudden start to burn, because succulents can burn. But just to see if you can get that type of reaction along the edges, because it's a blushing response. Adeline, not a houseplant, but what do you know about Solomon seal? Yes, so Solomon seal, I know how to identify it. I see it at our local parks. I know that there is a variegated variety from Japan that's also very commonly kept in front yards. We actually have a few neighbors that have the variegated variety. What else do I know about Solomon seal? It is used as a medicinal herb as well. And it is in the wild, though, it is endangered. It is, I think it's close to being a threatened species, if not already a threatened species. Yeah, so if you are trying to grow Solomon seal, definitely that would be wonderful in regards to kind of helping keep the plant around. Yeah, because it's been wiped out in many areas due to over harvesting. In terms of growing, from what I've seen, when I find them out and about, they tend to seem to want from what I've seen, they are always growing like by the ferns, by like very like nutrient dense soils. When I find them also in the shade under the canopy of the trees, though I have seen the variegated varieties kind of without any shade. I haven't grown them myself, though. Yeah, unfortunately. But I know a little bit of background about Solomon seal, but that's it, unfortunately. I've never grown it myself. Let me see here. Rocio, I recently got a baby elephant plant. What kind of substrate do you recommend? Elephant plant. So I'm not sure what that might be. So there are plants that's the issue with common names. So let's see, because ponytail palms are known as elephant plants or elephant foot plants. That's a ponytail palm. Then there's like elephant ears, which is usually things like colocaceas or alocaceas are also called elephant ears. So I'm not sure which plant a baby elephant plant. I'm not sure which species you're referring to. If you're referring to, well, either, let's say, the ponytail palm or the alocacea or colocasia, they actually do have pretty similar needs in regards to their substrate. Oh, elephant ear. Okay, awesome. So yeah, colocaceas and alocasias, they're in the same family. And so they fall under elephant ear. For them, they need a very well draining substrate. So they have a corm. So kind of like, it's similar to a bulb. So kind of like, think of like an onion bulb or a garlic bulb, right? It's very similar. It's called a corm, and so they will die back and then come back. So if the temperature's changed, if the plant ends up getting really stressed, it will die back. You just continue taking care of it. So don't worry if that's what's happening, if it starts to drop leaves or anything like that, especially if you're somewhere where it gets cold in the winter, like really cold, it most likely it'll drop its leaves, and but then it'll come back. But with the substrate, an aeroid mix is going to be your best bet. So something like, I would recommend a base of like a succulent soil, and then add perlite, more perlite, because the succulent soil is going to have a little bit of perlite, but add more perlite. Wood chips, so like orchid bark, is a good option. Sometimes you can add something like lava rock or leca in there, and then just a teensy bit of coco coir. You can add, for nutrition, a little bit of like worm castings is really great. And yeah, so you can, it just makes it really chunky and airy, and the water won't stay stagnant, and you don't want that, because one of the leading causes of death for elephant ears is the overwatering. So they basically end up getting put into something that's like coco coir and peat, or just peat, and that holds on to that water, and because it's a bulb, it just starts to rot, and then you lose the entire plant. Holly, is this a ponytail palm, and when do you know it needs to be repot? No, that is a sago palm. That is a sago palm. Hold on, let me add a spotlight. That is a sago palm. That is a beautiful sago palm. These guys barely have to be repotted because they grow pretty slowly. So I believe they are in the cycad family, or they're at least related to cycads, but they're very, very slow growing. I wouldn't worry about having to repot until it's actually either the roots are actively escaping. If you were to pull it up and see that it's insanely root bound, but it takes a really long time for those to even give you a little bit of growth. I will say though, sago palms are one of the most toxic houseplants in regards to if you have pets. So if you have a dog or a cat, just be careful. That's it's fatal to like puppies and kittens and stuff. But if you don't have to worry about that, you're fine. No worries. It's not toxic to you because you're not chewing on it. So but it's a beautiful plant, absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, you have to just be mindful for folks in the audience. If you have pets, be very mindful with the sago palm. With the ponytail palm, so this is a ponytail palm. It's wrapped up in my Stephania is wrapped up in here. Hold on one second. I have a little vine that's growing, and I just kind of let it climb my ponytail palm. So I just don't want to rip it once I lift up the ponytail palm. I have to give this little guy a trim. Try not to take down any other plants, but so this is the ponytail palm. And so there are some that are much more curly. So this one is just more, it kind of looks like an onion. So it's much like thinner leaves, much flatter, that kind of come up and then cascade down. I do have a tinier one in my kitchen, but that one has the curlier leaves. And so this one, the base looks more like an onion or like a turnip, but sometimes you can get them where it's like the trunk is just more solid, and it looks more like what the common name, which is the elephant foot. So yeah, so this guy needs to get watered. So I actually water this guy once a month. And so I'm gonna do I think I actually have a before and after picture. I'm gonna look for that super quick. But so here you could see it's starting to get really wrinkled, right? And it starts to feel kind of soft. And then once I water this, after 24 hours, this thing gets completely full again. It's super cool. So this is called it's a caudiciform plant. And so that's a plant that it has like a water storage organ basically. And whoops, those leaves end up whacking all my other plants. But yeah, and so yeah, so that's the sago palm. So I'm gonna hold on. I can actually I can actually show you here. So sago, it's the sago palm. Sago palm. Whoops, sago palm. Yeah. So they stay pretty compact. So they aren't something that's gonna like, you know, here you can see when you put them outside, which is pretty neat. But even though they're kind of like a dwarf, kind of, they can stay pretty small indoors. You don't have to worry about them. But they're beautiful. I really like sago palms. If I didn't have the cats, I would have one. And they're not, they're not plant like crazy, so they're not always like chewing on plants or anything like that. They like to play with this ponytail palm definitely, and this is non-toxic to animals. But I just rather just avoid that so I don't have one at home. But I wish I could. If I still had my office, I would definitely have one in my office because it's such a beautiful plant. These guys also can go long stretches without moisture, and they're really low maintenance. The only thing I've seen that they can get afflicted with mealy bugs. I have seen clients have issues with spider mites. But even if they have those issues, it's not something the plant doesn't just kind of rebound from. It's once it's treated, it's the plant, you might not even notice that anything was wrong with it. So it's definitely a very vigorous grower, and you really don't have to worry much about it. So, but usually the mix that they come in, it should be good, nice and well draining. With watering these guys, you'll probably find yourself watering them maybe every 2 to 3 weeks or so. You want to make sure that they're dry before you water them. And yeah, they can put up with a stronger light situation, but you could easily keep one in like an eastern window, or I've seen a lot of these also kept as like office plants. So they're pretty resilient. So not too finicky, thankfully. Tanya, Maple was right on time. Yes, I had my co-host for a moment. I have 10 plants in 2 locations in my 1-bedroom NYC apartment. Hey, fellow New Yorker. A rubber tree, Monstera deliciosa, a palm, a snake plant, etc. I think they're all toxic. I'm getting a cat this week, likely a young adult from a shelter. How do I discourage my cat from engaging with the plants? That's perfect. Perfect. I was just talking about this. All right, wonderful. Yes. So a couple things here is to understand which plants are toxic, and the ones you're describing, for instance, depending on the palm type. The rubber tree, which is a ficus, is toxic. Monsteras are toxic, and snake plants, which are now, they've been reclassified from Sansevieria to Dracaena, they're also toxic. So some palms are, like the sago palm is toxic. What else is another? I think the areca palm, I believe, is also toxic to pets. I have a so ponytail palms are not. They are safe. And I have a what they call a Chamiodora, a Chamiodora palm. it's a bamboo palm. And so with those, yeah, you can have without an issue. Oh, hold on one second. Remove spotlight. Oh, here I can see. Haha. It might be an Areca palm. It might be a parlor palm. Parlor palm. I'm trying to remember if the parlor palm is toxic or not. It might be toxic.
I think all the plants I own, I've got a peperonia and dracaena.
Okay, well, peperomias are safe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so peperomias are safe.
And
Pileas are
pathos.
safe. Pothos is toxic. Yeah,
Alocasia.
is toxic. So anything that's in the aroid family. So this is philodendron. I mean, of course, other families of plants too, but just like a main disqualifier is if it's in the Ariaceae family, which is also known as the aroid family. So philodendrons, all Scindapsus, all epiprenums, which are pothos, all so monsteras, philodendrons, all syngoniums, all alocasias, colocaceas, caladiums, dracaenas. A lot of the house plants that we get, even like Dieffenbachias, Aglionemas, a lot of these house plants that we tend to get that our tropical house plants, actually all tend to be in that family. So it's like a struggle because you're like, well, that's my entire collection. Yes. So so the important one is to kind of think, okay, well, what's like the most toxic, what's something I really have to worry about. With the palms, for instance, like the toxic palms, sago palm is something like deadly. With like Areca palms, I really believe it's the Areca palm that's the toxic one. With those, it's more of like it causes drooling. So it's of course knowing the signs. So if your cat starts like drooling, acting really weird, I would say if you can make the plants as inaccessible as possible, that's going to be so either by putting them slightly more elevated in a room that the cat can't access, which is difficult. For instance, we have 4 cats, and we have over 300 plants. And so our issues, we don't, thankfully, our cats don't mess with like even like the large leaves like Epipremnoides or things like that. They don't care about that. They like the stringy things.
Yeah.
So so like with the palm, the bamboo palm, now it's tall enough where they can't reach it anymore. But I had to cut that thing down to like a stump, and when it was first growing, oh my gosh, those poor leaves. But it's non-toxic, so it's like, okay, I kind of have to live with that. Now it's tall enough I don't have to worry about that. But with the ponytail palm, so Jules especially, he likes to chew on the very tips of the leaves. So that's something. And so things that's like a palm like, things like spider plants.
Dracaena, the little,
Yeah.
because when I used
Yes.
to have a cat, he used to chew on one of those.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
things that are kind of like a spiky or flowy, things like that are going to be very attractive to them. Usually succulents aren't. Jules, our cat, he's the only one that is an idiot when it comes to cacti. And so sometimes if like he's fine if like they're on the shelf, but when I do watering and I have them on the table, he has licked cacti, and I don't know why. But I have literally turned to see his tongue like licking a cactus, and then he starts freaking out because he has 2 spines stuck in his tongue. I don't know, and we've had to restrain him and help him out there. He's a weirdo. He's our cat that also, he licks plastic bags. He licks toilet paper. We had to get a cover for the toilet paper because he just licks a hole into it. So he seems to have like, I don't know, he's a weird cat. But you don't know if your cat's gonna be that weirdo, right? So
Yeah.
So definitely trying to see maybe what it kind of goes after too. You can kind of see because every cat's different. Like our
Mhm.
Mozart really can't be bothered when it comes to plants. Maple too. Maple, he's more of a tipper over. He doesn't chew on them. And our cat Mozart, he's more interested in dried leaves. So if I'm ever doing watering and I'm doing cleaning up and I have like a brown leaf and I take it and I put it like in a pile, that crunching,
Mhm.
he'll knock it down and he'll run around with a leaf, you know? So he's more interested in that. So it's really, each cat's going to be different. So I think in regards to trying to find out, well, what's the most toxic thing in my house? Dracaena is probably just going to make them really, really sick. But it's not necessarily going to kill the cat. The same with pothos. If you were to take like a bite, it's more of like an upset stomach versus, really I need to rush him to the ER.
Mhm.
Um, if you have a Dieffenbachia are very toxic, so I would be very careful with that. With the ficus, it's more of an irritant. So if it were to bite your rubber plant and that it's a ficus, if it's again common names, if you
Mhm.
need rubber plant for peperomia, that's fine. But if it's a rubber plant and it's a ficus, it's in the fig family, it secretes a white like latex,
Mhm.
and so that can cause blistering, and it does it basically internally too. So it can be
Right.
very uncomfortable, and so the dog or cat ends up, puking and having a really upset stomach. Um, so yes, Betty says it sounds like a Pika cat. Yeah, like Pika cravings, right? It's such a weird, he's such a weird cat. He steals, like he likes popcorn, he likes potato chips, he likes really
Mhm.
weird things. He likes candy. I can't leave candy out because he grabs it. He's a very weird cat. Um but I don't know because I thought cats weren't supposed to like sweet things. And he does. He's a weirdo. Um, but yeah, so definitely trying to think. Monstera also more of an upset stomach. I mean, it doesn't sound like you have anything that's gonna outright like, you know,
Okay.
be deadly to the cat, but definitely watch out. Kind of peruse your plants, make sure you don't see chunks
Mhm.
missing out of them, and just kind of see how the cat's behaving. So if you notice, okay, it has an upset stomach. If you notice anything weird like drooling, the cat is kind of walking in a weird way, like it's drunk. Also like dilation in the eyes that isn't changing, anything like that, and it looks like it's drunk. That's when you have to worry. If like the cat, it's like it looks drunk, it's not fighting back, it's like it's acting very out of character, then you really have to worry. There is a number I would recommend to look up, like the poison control for pets. Have that number accessible, so that when you're in a panic, you're not you're not then trying to Google the number. Have that like preloaded in your phone or have it on your fridge, in case you do have to call them, because they'll basically talk you through and say, so what are the symptoms, and is it something where you can just kind of wait for your cat to feel better,
Mhm.
or is it I have to escalate this and bring my cat in, because this is serious. So making the plants as inaccessible, that's one thing you can proactively do. A lot of the plants I have either hanging or on shelves or just on higher surfaces. If and in our bed our we have our bedroom that's accessible to the cats, but then our office is not. Um, and so in our office that door is always closed and the cats aren't allowed. So therefore, because my husband also has like a bunch of computer equipment, so that's where we use as an excuse to have like a bunch. There's like monsteras, and a lot of that is in there, so we don't have to worry.
Mhm.
But I have a lot of philodendrons. Like hold on, I was just watering yesterday, so there's a little bit of a mess in terms of like pictures and stuff. But like here you can see
Mm.
here. And so these are, I have the TV, and then we have the philodendrons. We have another philodendron. That's the Scindapsus up here, and then of course Hogwarts. for those who are fans. But then we have, yeah, the Scindapsus here, and then we have the Epipremnoides here. We
I'm
have
surprised
the,
I don't jump up and try to swat at them.
thankfully, no. Thankfully, no. And so these are pretty accessible. They can definitely hop up on here,
Uh-huh.
but they don't mess with them. And then we have the with the palm. There we go. It's finally up. It's about to hit our ceiling. Um, so, but now, so it's tall enough where they don't mess with it anymore. And then here we have also some of like Dracaenas, some snake plants and stuff back there that the animals don't mess with, thankfully. So you can have them accessible. It's not like, oh my gosh, I have to hide all my plants now.
Yeah.
But you just really have to kind of see how the cat ends up kind of settling in,
Mm-hmm.
and if it is even interested in your plants, because you might be lucky and get one that could really care less. And it's like,
Right.
yeah, like I don't.
I've ever heard like putting peppermint oil around the plant or things like that, or no.
Yeah, I wouldn't in terms of like, I wouldn't add that like to the soil, definitely
Mhm.
not. I wouldn't recommend putting it on the leaves either.
Okay.
Especially things like essential oils, they can actually burn your
Mhm.
plants. So I wouldn't recommend doing that, because it's different from like the volatile oils. So basically, essential oils are a collection of volatile oils, but it's hundreds of pounds,
Mhm.
of the plant material, and so it's very, very concentrated. And so it's very different from what it was originally extracted from. So when you put it back on a leaf, what ends up happening can actually burn the leaf. Um, so I wouldn't recommend that. I've had folks, recommend things like putting toothpicks, things like that. What I did to discourage them from the palm, which did help for a little bit. I think that's why it got tall enough now that I don't have to worry anymore. But what I did is I actually found something that scared them, which was, where did I put that thing? So are you familiar with the horseshoe crab?
Mhm.
So I found a horseshoe crab carapace, right? And I teach classes about urban ecology, and we get horseshoe crabs. They come here to breed. And so I found a carapace. I cleaned it out, I bleached it out, and I use it for my students. What I was doing is I was putting it right by my palm, and so my cats would look at it. This is like an alien. And so they would hop, like, so they would go up to the palm, like, hey, I'm gonna go chew. They would see the horseshoe crab, and like, holy moly, and you just see them hop and run away. So that was kind of I didn't have to spray anything. I just had to put something really weird by my plants.
Okay.
So it's like a weird way, but it worked, and they stopped messing with it, and now it's tall enough where I don't have to worry. But that was what I did for a while, because and also Jules, he kept like pulling the dirt out of the
Mhm.
pot.
Mhm.
um and so yeah, and just putting that right by the plant work. So you could, there's things you can try, experiment. I've seen folks put like a tin foil as well.
Okay.
But this is really if your cat ends up being one that is really interested in the plants, like
Mhm.
it's obsessed.
Okay.
My sister-in-law, like my brother and my sister-in-law, have two cats, and one of them is obsessed with the plants. Absolutely. And she's also a plantaholic. And so what she's had to do is just hang everything that's toxic. And the only plants that are accessible are the air plants, because they're non-toxic. Um, the what else is there? The peperomias are accessible. All the calatheas are, so all the prayer plants, marantas, all of that is accessible, and they do have nibbles like on them, and also getting cat grass. So
Mhm.
as well, to kind of divert divert her to chewing on that, because she chews on everything.
Mhm.
So we're grateful that none of our cats are like that. They're that obsessed. So yeah, but
Yeah.
you won't know, unfortunately, until the cat's there. But preemptively try to see if you can kind of MacGyver the situation. If you have to hang some plants like on macrames, or um, you know, play Tetris and see if you can kind of put them so that they're more inaccessible to the cat. Um,
Yeah.
might be helpful.
Okay. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope that helps. And good luck with the cat.
Thanks.
Cats are great. We had to stop fostering them because, as you see, we ended up with 4.
Mm.
So I told my husband no more. So when folks ask, "Can you watch this cat for us, or can you foster?" I'm like, "No, I will end up with 5 cats. That's how you end up with 5 cats." Let's see here. Um, all right. Um, oh, Holly, I may be overwatering. So the sago palm. So I'll change it to every 2 weeks. Yeah. Definitely. I think every week is gonna be too often for the sago. Um, Adeline, why do plants like Boston fern and then once in a while it throws up? I have it in a high plant stand. Yes. So with cats, it's just it's attractive, it's something that's kind of, especially like Boston fern, things that have very delicate leaves um that are very quick to move, in the wind, even if a small breeze gets in your house. Anything that looks stringy or like a ribbon, it's just very it kind of sensory, it's like a sensory overload for cats, and they're like, what is that? It's moving, and they want to capture it. um and so then they end up eating those little things. And what happens is that, yes, they do end up having, sometimes they'll eat so much, even if the plant's completely non-toxic, right? It's not harmful to them, but they'll eat so much of it or too quickly, that they end up inducing, themselves, like they end up causing, them to vomit. And a lot of it's because some of the material might be really, like it's too high in fiber. It's really, fibrous things, especially like, a lot of succulents, right? They're very thick, and so and it's very very fibrous. So what ends up happening is, your body's, well, especially your cat's body is having a really hard time trying um to digest that, and it's like, nope, 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 and it just ends up, yeah, coming right back out. um And what's really interesting, there's a great book, um, by Juliette, de Barclay Levy, I think is how you pronounce her last name, but it's called The Complete Herbal for the Dog and Cat. And that one's really great. Uh, and it actually has a whole section about, how like dogs and cats, uh, would sometimes want, it's almost like they needed to induce themselves to vomit, so they would eat very high amounts of grass, and then they would vomit, and then it would be found that, they had parasites or things like that, and it was like they were inducing that vomiting. It's a super super cool book. Highly recommend. um do I have a water meter to judge moisture? Diana asks. So yes, I have 2 different types of moisture meters. I was using them and then I just stopped. Um, Only because I kind of, now I know like how I kind of got into the rhythm with a lot of the plants. So I kind of know, like, okay, this section, and I tend to group my plants in regards to how often they need care, so that, I can just focus on one section at a time. Like, yes, last night, that was that section that I was just showing. So I purposely grouped those together, because I need to look at them at basically the same time. Um, and so, I usually know, okay, in about two weeks or so, these guys are going to be ready for watering. And I do always check, just double check, just in case. um and sometimes I do the finger test, but I mean, if you're more comfortable using a moisture meter, that's fine. I started like, when I really started growing my collection, past like 10, 15 plants, I started using a moisture meter just for my sanity, because I hadn't fallen into that rhythm yet. So I was like, well, I don't know. But you can definitely tell also by the shift weight. A lot of my plants too, they are in decorative pots, and inside they're in clear pots. So I like the store that I just got this guy from, they also put them into these clear pots. And so I love this because I can really tell, because you can actually see the color change and whether or not it's dry, with clear containers. Highly recommend that. But if you're going to try to figure out also with the moisture meter, so sometimes it's also species dependent, right? Because you might do the moisture meter and it says your plant's dry, but it might be still too soon to water. So something like with a snake plant, maybe you water it and it's dry after a week, but it's not recommended to try to water the snake plant again. You want to kind of wait. They like 2 to 3 weeks. For bigger snake plants in like bigger containers, you can do it like once a month. So it's also species dependent, but I mean, I do recommend moisture meters if that's what you're comfortable with. The ones that I have 2 different ones. I have a new one that I just got, just because I was out of curiosity, and I can't remember the name, but I have, hold on, moisture meter. I have this one. Yeah, I have one like this. So this is the one that I have. But it was a moisture meter. It's this like white one, small. Let's see if maybe that'll point me. Yeah, these are, haha, there we go. Keywords, there you go, Susty. There we go. So I got the medium size one. I have yet to try it. I recently just added it to a purchase because I was just very curious how these work, because so I will get back to you on whether I recommend them or not. But yeah, I just got one of these, and so it's supposed to make it really easy because it just changes color, and it tells you. So I'm gonna see how I like that. So maybe if this is a preferable thing, this is something you would leave basically 24/7. So you wouldn't have to, you wouldn't be taking it out and then trying it with different plants. You would just have, that for your plant, and once it's dry, the color indicator lets you know.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jocelyn.
You're welcome. And will catmint grow indoors in winter? Good question. Maybe if you had, they do die back, so they are a perennial. So catmint does die back, and then it just keeps coming back every year. But if you're gonna keep it indoors, it might last just a little bit longer. Now, if you completely mimic the outdoor environment, so it's kept, let's say, you're keeping it this 70 degrees, you're supplementing that. Oh, I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that? That's our frog, Eddie. And he's usually nocturnal. And so he usually is doing that at night. So that's why it was just so jarring to hear. I was like, wait, what? Not sure if the mic picked that up, but that was Eddie. He's a very big white tree frog. But yeah, I mean, if you were even to mimic it, it probably wouldn't survive the entire winter, but it would definitely delay it dying back. If you wanted to keep it, around a little bit longer, but it does just kind of go back, go bare. And yeah, and it's also good for dormancy. It's good to kind of give the plant that little bit of rest too, but it will last longer. So you might end up having it, into, if depending on where you're located too, when your winter is. But it might like make it into like December or something like that before dying back. Yeah. But all right, so thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Do you have a topic for next week? No, so the next week is going to be a plant clinic. So it's just for folks, anyone who might have any questions about their plants and want to show, hey, you have some distressing symptoms, you want to go on video with a plant that you're struggling with. But it's also open for general questions just like this. So feel free to do so. I actually have like a peace lily, and something else that I might just use as kind of examples during the plant clinic as well. So you're very welcome, and thank you so much for tuning in. Definitely, I'm going to post in case because I see a few of you had hopped on after, just to share the replay link. If you delay the dieback, will it delay the spring regrow? Good question. Not usually, because it's going to be triggered by the temperature, and it's like the temperature and the moisture. It gets triggered to grow. The only issue is that then it lessens. It sometimes it won't be as robust. I've seen some plants that might just get a little stressed out if they are kind of like pushed to keep putting out growth and kind of being productive, instead of being allowed to go into dormancy. But I don't think it would necessarily delay that regrowth, because it's going to be triggered by that seasonal change. Once you put it back outside and now it's like, okay, it's cold, and then it starts to warm up, then it'll trigger it to regrow. But where did that link go? Just want to pull that up for you. Where'd it go? There we go. Yeah, so if anyone wants to check out the replays, anything like that. I had some folks reach out to me and mention that like they were getting different links from, so our class is only on Zoom, and it's going to be this same link every week. And it wouldn't be like a replay playing. So yeah, that other company, they're not supposed to be doing that. They're not supposed to be replaying them. So yeah, I'm sorry if that caused any confusion, because that's what some folks had emailed in saying like, oh, it was a replay, and I was like, what? So yeah, I think that they clicked on the wrong thing. So yeah, that's not supposed to be happening. So it looks like the other company, it looks like they're replaying old videos, and they weren't. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, I just somebody just messaged me that yes, so they're not supposed to. So it's a really big issue. They're not supposed to. I said that when I left. I said that that was it, and to delete the videos and all of that. And so it looks like they're not listening. So yeah, it's just really frustrating. And so I'm so sorry if you're still getting the old emails. That's not me sending them. So they're sending that against my wishes. And I don't know, I might have to. I'm talking to a lawyer. I don't know if I have to send them a cease and desist or what. But yeah, it's getting complicated there. But thank you for letting me know. And if you continue to get them or anything like that, please, give me a heads up. I appreciate it. Because yeah, that's not supposed to be happening. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in, though. I hope you found it informative, and I hope you'll join next week. Enjoy the rest of your Monday, and definitely, just happy planting. Have a fun week, and thanks so much. Thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great one,
Okay.
everyone.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
You're very welcome.